Sky Squad, we are back in the building with a little Roger this and a little Rogers that. Okay. It is the name change that we have all been waiting for. Okay. The ceremony of ceremonies. It's from Holt to Rogers. Okay. So let's talk about this episode. We're talking about Love and Marriage Huntsville. We are on episode, I am thinking it's season 6, episode 24. I mean, like 24 episodes. Y'all know what? These seasons, they be, I mean, they just go on and on, my friend. But as long as the episodes are good, I'm fine. I'm really fine. I know I complained about this in the Bell Collective video, but I gotta also complain about it here. These 30 episode seasons are wearing me out. I like 15 episodes, give me a reunion, and then let's wrap it up and let's move on, okay? Because I feel like the reunion allows us to tell the complete story up until it wraps up the first half of the season. And now by the time we get to reunion, I don't remember what happened at the beginning. That has been months and months and months ago. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's just my little, y'all know I have this little diatribe about this whole situation every time we got to talk about, one of these shows that does this. But anyway, here we are. So let's talk about the episode in general. I'm going to give this episode an 8. As you guys know, 8 for Love and Marriage Huntsville is actually still usually better than an 8 for other shows. I couldn't give this one a 10 because I just felt like we got to discuss the end. That to me was not, I don't know. I just don't appreciate an introduction to a full-on new cast of characters that I now have to figure out who they are, the relationships, dynamics, and a lot of that happened at the end of this episode, specifically with Chris and Nell's family. But we'll touch on that when we get to that part of it. But if you want to know why I'm giving it an 8, that would be why. Okay. Also, I mean, I always look for episodes and scenes that move the needle forward in the larger narrative arc of the series and the season. So, I mean, I just, things were moved a little bit along, but I mean, as far as this episode really goes, not so much. But let's get into it nonetheless. All right. So the episode starts with Nell and Chris. Okay, Chris Fletcher and Nell. They are dancing a jig. They are juking and jiving, baby. They are getting down at the empty bar/lounge called Reflections. Okay. Now I was looking like, okay, they cutting the rug over here. Wait. No, wait a minute. Where is the peoples? Where I mean it the way they dancing up in this spot, it's like it's 11:30 and the club is jumping. I mean, it's 11:30 and the club is empty. Okay, because I was like, now y'all juking and jiving in the middle of the daytime. But you know what though? I ain't mad at it. I ain't mad at it. You know what I mean? Because I get it. When you in a relationship, when you in a marriage or something like that, and y'all just need a minute, you got to take that minute how you can, baby, because life gets to life in, and it sometimes be hard as a couple to get that little time alone, especially when you want to do something that you really, really enjoy. Why not go to the Reflections down at 11:30 a.m.? Okay, it might have been 11:30 and the club was jumping. I mean, it might have been 11:30 and the club was empty. But whatever the case may be, they was getting down with the get down. Okay. Anyway, Chris is still trying to get Martell up out this house. I mean, there's got to be some law against squatting like that, right? I mean, I don't know if we can be friends if you squatting in the house that I'm trying to list and sell. And now that I am now I'm signed with a brokerage. If one of my friends tried to do that, I don't think we'd be friends no more. So anyway, she relays that Martell stopped by to bring some bottles of Honest. And she had a talk with Martell about going to the name change ceremony. Now Martell wants them to pick a side, pick a side. What's that song? Pick a side, pick a side. Okay. You can't tell it from what I just sang, but that's a Nicki Minaj song. It ain't called Pick a Side, it's called No Frauds. But anyway, usually I try to make y'all guess it, but I was like, yeah, let me tell it to you anyway, because y'all might not have got it from my vocals. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, she tells him that things went to the left. All right. And we doing all the songs today. She tells him that things went to the left with Martell. Okay. And he got loud with her at their house. Now, Chris feels like he need to have a little ponderosa with Martell, but I don't know how strong he gonna be on that one. Anyway, she brings up Martell claiming that Mel was cheating and basically how he was the one who was done wrong. Okay. Now, Nell says that she wouldn't change her name because, she'd have been married for 30 years, but she's going to support Mel through this endeavor anyway, okay? They talk about Mel's invite to the event looking like a wedding invitation, and they surmise, like, what's going to happen. We never know because Mel throws the events. You know what I'm saying? So they joke about her changing her name back to Rogers, and Nell is like, Roger that. Mel should put that on a t-shirt too, and it'll go viral. All right. So as they are panning out of this scene, I noticed that Reflections. Now, okay, I gotta be honest with y'all. I don't own no buildings. Okay. I'm gonna just tell y'all the truth. I don't own no buildings yet. Okay. We're gonna speak that into existence yet. And so I don't really know what goes into, the signage for, the spaces and things like that. But it seemed like like one of those little temporary spots. And in my mind, I was want to do Chris and Nell own this spot right here. And they trying to hype it up. I don't know. Listen, I ain't mad at it if y'all are, but the way they made it sound like they always go to Reflections. And I'm like, did Reflections just open? Because they still look like they got the temporary sign up. So that's just a viewer observation that I was questioning. I just want to know. And when I say these types of things, I'm not trying to be shady or nothing like that. I just don't know. So I'm asking the question that I feel like the layperson is going to ask. And that's what I want to know. So somebody tell me, especially because it was looking like they was dancing and the club was jumping, but empty. Anyway, Tiffany is back and she's on the hunt for furniture. So she's got to meet Stormi to do so. And Stormi is planning to keep it all the way real. Okay. Keeping it real with Nene. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that news segment that Nene was on when she thought she was the hot tamale when she got that news segment, Keeping It Real with Nene. Anyway, Stormi is planning on keeping it real, like Nene. And Tiffany though wants the tea on what happened with the splashdown at Splash Mountain when Letitia got baptized, not in the name, by Kiki with the hose. Okay. She says that she didn't know Kiki could be so relevant yet irrelevant at the same time. And Stormi is like, you know what, girl? You really are being shady to this woman. And I don't know why, especially with that interview with Carlos King, which is yet another reference to, we're really breaking the fourth wall because, Carlos being, who he is over the show or whatever like that. And then them showing the actual interview clip. It's like meta. Okay. So anyway, Tiffany wonders if is Stormi on Kiki's side. She thinks that Kiki stays in mess and throwing the drink shows her, what type of character Kiki has, and she don't want to be around that. Now, I listen, that's her prerogative. If she don't want to be around her, she ain't got to be around her. But I will say though, if you are going to be shading her, then you make sure you don't go around her, because when she clap back at you, then you can't be upset when she does. Okay. So it would be best to shade and shelter in place than to reemerge where you might run into her, and then she have a reaction that may be similar to a blessing to the splashdown that she gave Letitia. Okay. And that is truthfully what Stormi is worried about, because she's like, I mean, basically, I feel like she's calling Kiki kind of reactive. And I feel, and Stormi's trying to tell her, listen, if you keep on poking that bear, I mean, that's essentially where this conversation was going. If you keep on poking the bear that is Kiki, then you might end up finding yourself feeling the wrath of the Kiki. Okay. And it's not going to be a Kiki at that point. All right. So you better bring that baby with you every time you see her. Because that baby is a protective shield, baby. Let me tell you something. I mean, because who hit a person with a baby? I mean, you got to be some kind of effed up to do that. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, you know, one of the other things that Stormi has a problem with is that Tiffany makes it sound like she feels like she's better than Kiki, and that Kiki is basically beneath the group. Okay. And Stormi's telling her that's just how it came across. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it came across. So Stormi's like, y'all both need to stop. And at that point, Tiffany's like, well, I'm receptive to talking to her, but is she receptive? Well, no, is she receptive to talking to me? Or is this just Stormi stirring the pot? Yo, let me tell you something. At that point, Stormi, I felt like that bag lowered, and Stormi took a step up and was like, "Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that." And Tiffany showed it. Okay, okay, with what I mean, okay, 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 okay. My bad. My bad. I mean, she got that okay real nice and quick. Okay. She was like, I mean, you could tell she felt like Stormi was serious, and I felt like Stormi was serious too. I don't know what Stormi was about to do, but I felt like whatever non-verbal communication she was given along with her verbals definitely let Tiffany know, not today, sis, not today. So they sit down because Stormi recognizes that things then took a little bit of to the left. And so they do sit down and they have a conversation. And Stormi is basically like, she visited Kiki, and, Kiki is moving. And so did you have anything to say about Kiki's move? Because Kiki revealed that Melody told her that Tiffany was, making some comments about the move. All of this Tiffany denies, okay? And then Stormi confronts her about talking about her hair care products as as Kiki then relayed. Now I don't know how Kiki would know that Tiffany was saying stuff about the products unless this occurred at a time where Kiki and Tiffany were mildly cool. But Tiffany also denies speaking negatively about the Canvas beauty products as well. So the long story and the short story is that Stormi is going to brokerage a peace treaty betwixt the two ladies. All right. Anyway, it's the day of Melody's event, and it's definitely giving wedding ceremony. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm having a ceremony in my backyard, and it's going to be the bomb. And I'm going to get rid of this name, like like, I mean, she is on the first train smoking out of Holtzville, okay, and back to Rogers. What I noticed is ain't nobody else from the cast there except for Nell and Nell and Chris. And I'm like, well, was nobody else? It didn't look like I don't think nobody else was invited for real like that. But I mean, if they were, they ain't show up. So I was kind of like, well, maybe she just really wanted people she's really, 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 really close to. You know what I'm saying? Which kind of makes sense, especially if you're inviting these people to your home. So that's that on that. Anyway, she takes her vows to receive her God-given name. Miss Vanessa makes a speech, and the peoples is crying. Afterwards, Hey, where the party at? Well, not where Nell is, okay? Because Nell needs to come talk to Melody, and it's all pleasantries at first, and then Nell brings up Martell, and Mel is like, "Here we go." Um, Nell relays the story of how Martell stopped by to bring the wine, but when she says that Martell brought up Mel changing her name, I thought that Nell brought up the name change ceremony. Am I incorrect in my remembrance of that? Somebody chime down in the chatterization and let me know, because I was like, I think you telling the story wrong, Miss Nell, and there is context to that that could be relevant to what you're saying. But anyway, um essentially Mel feels like all of this is like crazy, that he thinks that he gave her some type of name or whatever like that. And she gets, Mel gets kind of riled up and was like, he's very controlling and narcissistic, and that's exactly what it sounds like. But then Nell reveals that Martell thinks that she doesn't hold Mel accountable, for all the alleged cheating she supposedly did in the relationship. And Mel is like, he is lying, and lady, he ain't here. Okay. And I'm celebrating my future, and he's not a part of that. So let's not talk about that any longer. Because at the end of the day, the name change ceremony, in my opinion, really puts a button on the Martell and Melody saga for henceforth and forevermore. Like, they are, in my opinion, they are done. And probably outside of this show and obviously managing their kids, they don't really seem like they would have to have any more cross, like, they don't need, their past don't even need to cross. So I wonder how the show will continue to follow that relationship. You know what I'm saying? And what then becomes of Martell's relevancy with the show? Granted, he is still friends with a lot of the guys. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how things turn out as they, at some point, film a new season. Um, Over at Stormy's, I honestly was like, who is this man in Stormy's house? It turns out it's Kyle, the COO of Canvas Beauty. Now, it turns out, has been helping Canvas position the business into the 2.0 era. And she wants to do a 5-year anniversary party. What I think what a lot of us didn't know, at least I didn't know, is that apparently when he came onto the business about a year ago, she had almost lost her company and her house, and she gets misty-eyed at this statement. She talked about the company growing too fast, and then she was on bed rest, and they lost momentum. So apparently also too, her signature got forged by someone who stole from her business and family. And I'm like, who stole what from who? Who zoomed in who? Like, if we're gonna talk about it, and I know you probably can't say no names because it sounds like a legal issue or whatever like that. But was it family? Was it something? I mean, who was it? Who did it? Who forged your signature? Okay, I want to know. It's brought up on the scene, so I want to know who did it. And if you can call me nosy, but yes, I am when it pertains to something that a character has brought up on the screen, right? I in I I gotta tell y'all, at the point in my life that I'm at right now, for real, I'm really not interested in like the scandal of it all when it comes to reality TV. Unless, okay, it's brought up as a part of the plot, right? Um, Outside of the show, and okay, obviously things that happen on social media, I don't delight or find joy in the scandal. And I really don't. It you just get to a point where you've done this for so long that you're just kind of like, all right, everybody got some stuff with them. But when you bring it up on the camera in the context of the show, now I want to know, right? So anyway, um, and I want to know more about this little period of time. Like, what was going? Like, was this last year? Is in 2022 when you were filming the show, or was this in 20? Was this a year prior to? Like, how did all this happen? Like, I really would like be more interested in hearing about this because it seemed like it came out of nowhere, right? And it's just being revealed. But anyway, um, oh, well, no, actually, she says the date. She says it right here. It was June 18th of 2022. She woke up and everything had froze, and she had to start at zero, and nobody knew. And now I need to rewind time and go back and feel and figure out what was going on at that period of time. Because in my mind, I remember her taking a break from social media for a minute, and I didn't know if it was the show or what. But I don't know if this was the same time frame. So I don't know. All right, so now we get to the scene in question for why I gave this episode an 8 instead of like maybe something higher. I feel like similar to the scene with Stormy and her mom and her aunt and her cousin, what I felt like worked there that does not work here for me is that we are suddenly thrust into the thick of some family drama with the Fletchers that we had never previously heard or gotten before. For me, I prefer at least small introductions to things and people that are later going to become pivotal to the plot line or story, especially for people that we are still getting to know, i.e., the Fletchers, right? So, comparatively, when we got the scene with Stormy and her mom and her aunt and her cousin that blew up the way that it did, I felt a little bit more invested because we had already gotten a taste of Stormy's mom. We had also gotten a taste of Stormy's cousin because they had worked together and whatnot. So we knew that Stormy's mom could potentially be explosive, and we also knew that there was tension going on with Stormy and her cousin because she ultimately had to fire him. So when that scene combusted the way that it did, it popped on screen a bit more for me because I was already invested and I knew at least a modicum of details about what was going on with those two stories. And so when we got further developments, I was able to then say, oh, wow, like this is how all of this is building together. Comparatively, when we're talking about Nell and Chris's scene with their family at this juncture, honestly, there were just too many people for me to try to even fathom writing down all the names. What I do know is that there is a niece named Kiki along with Nell and Chris's 4 kids. Now, I do know that 2 of them they had together, and then 2 of them they came into the marriage with each having one of the children on their own. Now, it appears that there are some husbands or some partners or spouses that are also at this dinner as well. And the main sources of contention for Nell are her niece, who apparently she had to fire. And I think it would have been beneficial for us to have maybe met the niece before because she was so pivotal to this argument. And this idea that Nell is very reactionary when it comes to the kids, and that's why they seem to favor going to Chris first when they are in distress. Now, the other pivotal plot point here is we're talking about Nell and Chris's son, and he apparently went to jail. We don't know why. They do not get into why. And I'm like, if you're going to mention jail, now you got to tell me why. I want to know. And furthermore, and again, if I had just found this out on the internet, I probably really wouldn't care all that much. I mean, because we have never been introduced to them before, so I would not care. So it feels the same way. I'm just being introduced and I do not care yet because I don't know enough, right? The son thing should have been caught before. Like I definitely feel like that should have been caught on camera before because definitely something that we can all wrap our brains around, and it's familiar territory in terms of what we experience a lot of times in the community, right? And that's not to be stereotypical or make a generalization. I'm just gonna say it. I mean, so many of us have family members who have, been into the system in some way, shape, or form. So it's not a surprise and it's not a shock. And sometimes that happens to kids. So let us know this previously. So when we get this dinner and follow up, none of this is such a surprise, and we're able to then build on what we already know because we'd already had met them. And there have been opportunities for this to have happened and occurred before. So that is why I gotta be honest about how I feel about it, because all of this tacked on at the end of this episode, and I'm like, who are all these people? Similar to the episode with also similar to the episode that we saw was it last year with, it felt like a Scott spinoff because they had the whole family reunion or gathering or whatever where Marceau ends up getting into it with Kiki and her husband. At least going into that, we knew Miss Wanda, we knew Kiki, we knew a little bit about the husband. And so as we're immersed in this scene with all of their family, it didn't feel like I was being thrust into a situation where that's the one. And that's also, probably goes back to something that I feel in general. Like when I'm meeting somebody's family or when I'm meeting somebody's whatever, if I'm thrust into that group, it is very difficult for me to process who I'm meeting. It's overwhelming. And I just feel like I don't have anybody to hang on to in this moment, right? So as Nell is getting worked up over the son who went to jail, who they bailed out for, I guess, maybe 6 G's. And then they spent another 3 G's taking care of his dog while he was locked up. Now Nell wants her money back, or he not getting the dog back, for which it don't even seem like he's that. I mean, was he concerned? I can't even remember because it was just so many new people. So anyway, that's my biggest criticism. And this is a to be continued scene that honestly, I really just don't care about because, again, it was too much too soon for me. Okay. That's just me speaking about me. I don't mind an introduction to the family and I want to know more, but allow that to happen over time. And I felt like it would have digested for me a lot better. So anyway, that's my opinion on the episode. Let me know what you guys thought about it. I'm so interested in reading your comments. I always try to go back through and read the comments, as I get time. Y'all have no idea. It has been a very challenging day for me. So I'm super excited that I was able to get through this and maintain my normal level of enthusiasm. But y'all, behind the scenes, I'm mentally drained. And I will tell you more about it later about why, but it's just a very long story. So with that being said, I will talk to you all in the next video. So I'm Richie Skye, the author and publisher of The Wickedest Wives, Desiree's Desire, which is book 1 in a series. This book is about redemption. It's the story of a disgraced journalist who has lost everything. And now she has to rebuild her life brick by brick. And what better way to do that than to join a reality TV show? Why not? Now, not only are we talking reality TV, so there's going to be scandal, there's going to be a little bit of deception, backstabbing, a little romance, and why not throw in a sprinkle of murder to really round out the excitement? So I really want you guys to dive headfirst into these books. Desiree's Desire is just the first of many to come. So I'm super excited for you guys to read this, and I want to know exactly what you think. So be sure to follow, like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.